Guri and Gura's Special Gift by Rieko Nakagawa and Yuriko Yamawaki. The two field mice, Guri and Gura, wake up one fine spring morning and wonder out loud, "How are the carrots in our vegetable garden doing?" And "How tall are those runner beans?" And so they dash to their garden to have a look. Guri sees that the carrot leaves are a bright green and are getting rather thick, so he goes right to work thinning them out. Gura sees that the runner beans have shot up, so he goes to work putting up bean poles. Hoeing and watering, weeding and thinning, Guri and Gura get a lot done for one morning. "Let's have breakfast now, shall we? I'm starving," says Guri. "Let's," answers Gura, and off they go to wash their hands. For breakfast, they make an omelette full of chopped carrot leaves. "Delicious," says Guri. "It's quite a garden we have, isn't it?" "Yes, it is," says Gura. "You know, I don't want to boast, but I do think we make a fine pair of farmers." "I agree. I think we're doing a fine job," says Guri. "Now, what do you say we try growing some squashes?" "Great idea," answers Gura excitedly. "I can already taste the sweet, smooth squash." As soon as they finish breakfast, Guri finds a book on their bookshelf entitled A Step-by-Step Guide to Growing Squashes. Gura finds the book 101 Squash Recipes. Guri and Gura are reading and making plans when all of a sudden they hear a little girl's voice at the door. "A squash! A sweet, smooth squash for you!" Running to the door, Guri and Gura find a little girl carrying a bulging knapsack. "My name is Violet, and I come from the field of violets over yonder," she says. "I'm really tired," says Violet as she puts down her knapsack and wipes the sweat from her brow. Guri runs to get her a glass of cold water. Gura dashes to get her a damp towel. "Ah, this water's good," says Violet as she drinks 3 full glasses. Then, wiping her face with the towel, she says, "Thank you. That's so refreshing." Next, opening her knapsack, she gently places her hands around something inside, and with one big oomph, pulls out a big squash. "Here's a gift for you," she says. Guri and Gura's eyes sparkle, and they both exclaim, "What a beautiful squash! Thank you, Violet, thank you." Guri and Gura examine the squash carefully, rubbing it, tapping it, smelling it, and putting their ears to it to find out if there is anything inside. Then Guri wonders aloud, "Now, what kind of squash do you think this is? Is it a buttercup squash, or an acorn squash, or a butternut squash?" "I know," says Guri finally. "This is a one-of-a-kind squash called a violet squash, right?" "Right," answers Violet. "But oh my, what a big squash this is," says Guri. "I don't see how we can cut it open with our small kitchen knife." "It's so hard, I don't think my saw will work either," says Gura. Just then Violet says, "Don't worry, I'll split it open for you." "My mother always does it like this," says Violet, and she runs outside with the squash. With one she raises it above her head and drops it on the ground. The squash hits the ground and rolls a bit, but it is still in one piece. I'll give it another try, says Violet, and once more she drops the squash on the ground. But it hits the ground, rolls a bit, and comes to a stop with no sign of splitting open. This time for sure, Violet says, and she raises the squash high above her head and throws it down with all her might. The squash hits the ground and then bounces one great big bounce high into the sky, and when it hits the ground again, it finally cracks open and splits in half. At that moment, clapping can be heard from all sides, and all the animals in the woods who have seen the flying squash gather to find out what in the world is happening. Cutting up the split squash, everyone pitches in to prepare scrumptious squash dishes. Guri and Gura are now doing what they love best, and as they cook, they sing, "My name is Guri, and my name is Gura, and what do you think we like to do best? Cook and eat, eat and cook. Yeah! Guri and Gura, that's us." They make squash soufflés and squash fritters, squash puddings and squash cookies, squash French fries and squash donuts, steamed squash breads and squash biscuits. Each and every dish is delicious, and all of them eat till their stomachs are full. By the time they've cleaned up, the evening sky is turning pink. Violet puts on her empty knapsack and, saying goodbye, skips back to her home in the field of violets. Before calling it a day, however, Guri and Gura do one last thing. They plant some violet squash seeds in their garden. The end.